Welcome back to Urban Yoke. My name is Giulia. Io mi chiamo Giulia. And as always, I'm delighted to have you here. So, first off, to people who have been following for a while, I do apologize for not making a video in the past few weeks. This second trimester of pregnancy was quite difficult on me, both physically and emotionally, and I just found it very tough to make videos and share and be present during that time. So yes, sorry about that, but I am feeling a little bit better. I'm still struggling, but I think I'm feeling a lot more motivated to share and get back out there about our life here in Italy and what it's like having a child while I have a chronic illness. So yes, I'll be sharing a lot of that and a little bit about raising a kid in Italy, and hopefully I can get back into food stuff soon as well. But one step at a time, right? And I also will have some more information on my husband's permesso di soggiorno, which I will share in a next video if you are interested in that aspect and moving to Italy. So, if for people who are new here, I mean, if you've clicked on this video, you are either pregnant in Italy or you have Syringomyelia. I have Syringomyelia. It's a condition that affects your nervous system. It mostly affects the peripheral nervous system as far as I understand, but essentially we moved here to Italy because of this condition that I have, and we moved to Italy from South Africa with 6 cats, and I've tried to share a bit about that journey along the way. We were in a homesteading situation and now living in an apartment, and shortly after finding our final apartment, I found out that I was pregnant and that we are having a little one come along the way, which wasn't part of the plan, but is now part of our future. So it's an exciting time, you know, just less than a year in Italy and we're already starting a family. So we've had to get through a lot of Italian bureaucracy, and I will share that in the second part of this video. First off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences pregnant and with Syringomyelia. First off, the body pain is incredible. The body pain was a lot, and it is still quite a lot. There are days where I am nauseous more from the pain than I am from, you know, like general pregnancy nausea. I will say there is a difference between the nausea I felt before and the nausea I feel now. This nausea that I feel now, it's a lot harder to control and predict, and I find myself in situations where I need to actually find a bathroom. Before, I was a lot more in tune with my body and I could understand when it was an emergency and when it wasn't. Whereas now it's a lot more forceful. It's very different, and there's a lot of heartburn that comes with it. And now that we're in the 3rd trimester, I believe a lot of the nausea is not just from the pain, but also from some of the heartburn I've been experiencing, which is not something that I felt in a very long time. So that is one thing. And my body pain, so my back, particularly my lower back and my hips, are incredibly sore. My right leg and my right foot, incredibly sore. I haven't had bloating issues and, you know, swelling or anything like that. I think I've been very lucky. Having spoken to my sister-in-law, my other sister-in-law, and my mom and a few other people about pregnancy, I realized that my pregnancy symptoms are actually quite low, limited, in conjunction with a lifetime of knowing how to deal with being uncomfortable, as well as having a supportive partner who helps me get through the moments where I'm just not rational about things. So I realized that I'm actually having a relatively easy pregnancy compared to many other women. except for the fact that the pain is a lot worse and there's nothing that I can do about it. So some days it just feels like I'm not all there. And the nausea and vomiting is so bad that I have to take a few hours just to lie down and relax. And I'm very grateful that I work from home so I can manage my schedule around that. And I think it would be a lot harder if I had to go into a workplace and try and manage this. I would probably have to go on maternity leave a lot sooner. So the most of my experience has been dealing with mood swings and pain. So mood swings I've been really struggling with. I'm finding myself in moments where I'm happy, I'm optimistic, and I'm that go-getter I know myself to be, and then moments where I'm just so depressed about my body again, the way that I used to feel in the early stages of diagnosis and even before diagnosis. There was a lot of confusion surrounding my life at that time, and I'm kind of dabbling with those emotions again. I don't enjoy it. But I'm also a lot more mature and I understand where it's coming from, and I understand that there are ways of dealing with it. So it's a lot easier. It's not as draining, but it has been very draining to deal with that, as well as the bureaucracy here in Italy. So my husband's permit to stay here has been an interesting ride. I'll share that in another video. And then my experience, well, it's no longer me that's just experiencing it, and it's something I need to remember. Our experience of the Italian medical system, or their national system, because there's private and there's national, has been difficult. And I think we're also in an area where it is particularly difficult because the hospital that is available to us doesn't have a lot of services that we've had to use, and their mannerisms and their bedside manner is very abrupt. So that's caused a lot of stress for me, especially during the second trimester. But now that it feels like I'm starting to become normal again, like my brain is functioning the way that I'm used to it functioning, I think it is easier. But the pain is now getting worse as the weight gets more. There's not much longer to go, so I think these last few months are going to be difficult. But at the same time, I know that there's an end to this, and then it will be a different journey that will begin. And once we get to the end of the pregnancy, I can look at actually managing my pain again and start feeling, I guess, a little bit more normal, even more normal than I feel now. So it's not too bad. So that's kind of been my experience so far. It's the mood swings and the pain. And the pain is really just some days I just cry because it hurts. it hurts. The lower back and the hips moving and all of that is just, it's incredibly sore because I've already got a lot of pain in those areas and issues with my ligaments in those areas. So yeah, I haven't enjoyed it in that aspect. Feeling our child moving around and being there and kicking. Oh, got a good kick. That's been really lovely. It kind of makes me smile and giggle, and how excited my husband is to be a father is also truly magical, and I couldn't have asked for a better person to be on this journey with. So yeah, the physical part has been extremely difficult, and the emotional drain of it has been quite difficult, and that brings me into dealing with the bureaucracy here in Italy. So first off, one of the reasons that I was so emotionally drained during the second trimester and really just felt like I couldn't share was because of the uncertainty of how I was going to give birth. So I was diagnosed in 2011, and as far as I was concerned, a C-section was the better way to go. And in the previous video, I spoke about that, and many women have gone for C-section. In a very recent study, um, which is, you know, well, it's a study and then multiple studies brought into that study, so it's kind of more of a summary of studies, shows that giving natural birth is marginally better because spinal analgesics are a problem for people with Syringomyelia. It seems like there's been more recorded cases of issues with that than just with a natural birth. And I had to go and see a neurologist and contact neurologists and neurosurgeons in South Africa to gather all of this information to finally get to how am I actually going to give birth and where. And we went through a number of different options, including home birth. And to be honest, if I didn't have a spinal disorder and we weren't we hadn't just moved and we had built up our savings again, I probably would have liked to do a home birth. But to be honest, all of the women that I spoke to who have given birth before were not excited about the idea and definitely were happy about being in the hospital instead of at home. And that definitely assisted in our decision. But it basically came down to the fact that with my spinal condition, I cannot really just be anywhere. And it also means that I cannot just take any medication. So there's no epidural and no spinal analgesics of any kind, no pain meds are allowed during the birth. And we finally got to that conclusion this week, and I guess that's also why I'm feeling a bit better about sharing. It alleviated a lot of stress. So yeah, I will be giving natural birth. It's been decided, and we met with the anesthetist this week. So they've decided that if an emergency C-section is required, and it's only an emergency, they'll be willing to do it. Then it will be general anesthesia. So they would like to avoid doing that because general anesthesia has also proven not to be fantastic for people with Syringomyelia or any kind of CSF flow issue. So yeah, it's going to be completely natural. And I know it sounds really exciting that we came to this conclusion, but most of the second trimester was spent trying to figure this out, speaking to people in Switzerland, in South Africa, asking for help from family, and trying repeatedly to get appointments in time before the birth actually happened with a neurologist that was accessible to some degree, because there's no neurology department at the hospital where we will be having our little one. It was very stressful, and to do all of that traveling was very stressful on my body, and it was very stressful on me mentally. And I was just not in a space to share, but now I'm getting better. I can share that, yeah, it's been decided, so now we know. And it seems like the most recent research says that natural birth with no assistance, so completely natural, is the best way for someone with Syringomyelia. Kind of made me a little bit scared, freaked out a little bit. Was never expecting to do this, but hey, I have been through a lot, and I can get through this too. So I'm not afraid. When after it happens and I'm kind of recovered, I will share my experience, what it was like. And if you are someone who has given natural birth, or given natural birth with any kind of spinal issue, just share your experiences in the comments, and then we all learn and we can all make decisions that's best for ourselves and our bodies, because it's honestly the hardest part of this whole thing. And so, with that experience and having to go to a whole bunch of different doctors that were in different provinces, yeah, we've been up and down a lot. Now, the Italian medical system here, if you are in Italy and you're pregnant or you're looking at moving to Italy and you want to know about it, I'll say this, the medical care that you get is good. Most places that you go to, the care itself is good. It's getting to that care that can be very difficult. So, whatever you do, you need a prescription. And that can be for medication, it can be for appointments, it can be for blood tests, like whatever it is, they give you what they call a ricetta. So it is a prescription, so they prescribe you to go and do tests. Also, if you have to do anything like a urine test, you have to buy the cups from the pharmacy and take your first morning urine to the hospital or to the lab where you will be doing the tests. They pretty much only take blood from you at these laboratories. So just be aware of that. If you are unsure about something, always ask. I was caught off guard by that and had to return to the hospital later with the urine sample. It was a very confusing thing for me. So yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy. The wait times are very long. If you are pregnant, you will, because there is a specific time frame, you will be slotted in to make sure that you get the visits that you need when you need them. But they're going to ask you to do a lot of things, and it requires going to the hospital pretty frequently. And some hospitals, like the one we go to, has quite a few rules about when you can go for certain things. If you have difficulty traveling like we do, I urge you to speak to the medical professionals and ask them if there's a way that you can try and arrange to do multiple things on one day because of the travel difficulties that you might be experiencing. Such as ourselves, we are very limited in terms of transport at the moment, so we were able to get quite a few things done this week and mitigate having to go in next week, which was awesome. But it's not always the case. Sometimes they will require you to go in. Sometimes they will require you to go to a completely different hospital that could be up to 3 hours away, like the one we had to see in Pavia. And so yes, whatever you do, you're going to need a script for. Make sure that they give you scripts for things, especially if you need to ask for medication or if you want to go for an extra checkup or something. You must speak to them and make sure that they give you some kind of script, and then that way you are filtered through the system. But a lot of their things are separate. So here in Italy, you have an obstetrician and a gynecologist. They are separate things and they follow different aspects of the pregnancy. Whereas in South Africa, it's an OBGYN. It's one person is, a gynecologist that specializes in obstetrics, and they follow your case. And then you get midwives who manage many birthing situations at the hospital once you're there. So it was a difficult experience for me. You cannot just get an appointment whenever suits you. You get the day and time that they tell you, and you just have to be there for that day and time. It's very difficult to reschedule or postpone an appointment, and you really don't want to because wait times can be so long. For example, when I was trying to get the neurology appointment to find out about how I could possibly react to spinal analgesic, I think it was 4 or 5 attempts before I actually got a date that was before my due date. Everything else was 8 months, a year from the time that I was asking. So there's a lot of things, especially specialists, you are going to wait a very long time if it doesn't have any kind of urgency or priority. So that's something to keep in mind. when you are here and if you want to give birth here. What a lot of women do, a lot of families, is they go private for the checkups during the pregnancy, because that functions like any other private situation where you make your appointment at the time that suits you best and you go and see them, and one person follows your case, and then they do the actual birth in the state hospital, because you do not have to pay. So if you're living here and you have a job or whatever, or you marry someone, whatever the case may be, if you're living here, you're resident here, you don't have to pay for a lot of medical care. There's a lot of little things that you have to pay for, which over time does add up, but it's in comparison to just paying for everything privately, it's really little, and it's not worth even getting into its cost, to be honest. So it's free to give birth in Italy. The whole experience is paid for by the state, paid for by your taxes, essentially. So you have your taxes, and then what you pay at IMSS, and IMSS is like your unemployment pension and all of those things, and your contributions there then pay for your hospital stays and hospital visits and all of that. So we went completely on the state one, and that's why it was really difficult to manage, because the bureaucracy, as Italy is known for, is very difficult to deal with. And so just, again, expect a lot of wait times, expect to pay for things that seem meaningless, like a pee cup, so you can take your urine in for those tests. And then there's also, you need a lot of patience. They're almost always late. Always late for appointments, up to an hour or 2 hours late for appointments. So whenever you have an appointment, you just make sure that you've got that entire day off to be able to deal with whatever you need to deal with. So yes, wait times are long for the appointments, when you're at the appointment, and bedside manner is not great. Some people are kind, but they're very abrupt, they're very blunt people, and that's my experience here in Lombardy, as well as in Tuscany when I was younger. You will always find very blunt people that are not very reassuring during the process, and may often say things that actually scare you rather than soothe you. So you need to learn to manage that for yourself. And yeah, that's also then what contributed to my second trimester difficulties, because it's just a lot happening all at once, and I was struggling to put it all together. But yes, this video has gone on for much too long. Just wanted to let you guys know how I'm doing and a little bit about the medical system. But if you have any specific questions about the medical system here in Italy, how it works exactly, do leave me some questions down below, or about Syringomyelia, leave me questions down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And if I can get around to it soon, I will do just a full video on tips on dealing with the medical bureaucracy here in Italy. So for right now, I'm going to sign off, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, alla prossima!